A bank manager who didn't know he was one of the most powerful people in the world refused to service a customer wearing a MAGA hat. Her and the entire village were rendered dumbfounded by what transpired next. The Chase Bank in Austin, Texas was bustling with the typical midday crowd as the clock hit 11 a.m., with business-suited men juggling paperwork and coffee cups. While tellers worked efficiently behind their counters and retirees smiled courteously while waiting their turn, Amelia Taylor, a seasoned bank manager with over 20 years of experience, sat behind the manager's desk. Amelia reviewed loan applications while the faint creak of the entrance door echoed. Amelia was known for her unwavering commitment to the bank's policies and her no-nonsense attitude. She was drawn to a man who entered wearing a red baseball cap with large white letters. He was little over 6 feet tall. Restore America's greatness. Amelia's jaw tensed as she read it. She had seen that hat before, and to her it symbolized division and hostility. She couldn't get rid of the memory of a heated customer argument last month that resulted from political differences. Determined to prevent a repeat incident, she whispered to her assistant manager. His casual demeanor contrasted with the typical professional attire seen in the bank. He held a small briefcase in one hand and stood in line, his eyes scanning the room. "Mia, keep an eye on this person. Let's not get into any problems." When it was his turn, the man came straight to Amelia's desk. "Good afternoon," he said, nodding courteously. "I need to withdraw money from my account." Amelia questioned curtly, "Do you have your account details?" as she looked up momentarily. "Yes," the man said, setting both items on the desk. As Amelia looked over the documents, her initial suspicions grew because she couldn't concentrate on anything else, and the man's name wasn't familiar. "We won't be able to execute your request today," she answered, finally sliding the documents back toward him. The man blinked, clearly surprised. "Excuse me, is there a problem with my account?" Amelia shook her head. "No problem, but we reserve the right to reject service." If we believe it's justified, the man's demeanor stayed composed even though surrounding customers gasped. However, his tone became a little more acerbic. "I've done nothing wrong, so I'd like to know what you mean by merited." Amelia paused, her voice dropping. "I don't want to argue. If you'd like, you can speak to another branch about this." The man studied her face for a moment, then picked up his documents, adjusted his cap, and left the bank. Whispers among the other customers broke out, with some nodding silently in agreement with Amelia's stance and others exchanging bewildered looks, obviously wondering what they had just witnessed. However, the real surprise was not yet to come as the man left. There was an almost palpable tension in the air as the heavy glass door closed behind him with a harsh thud. Amelia sat up upright. Trying to ignore the uncomfortable glances from some of the people watching, she reminded herself that she was sure of her choice. Mia leaned over and asked, "Do you think that was necessary?" in a low, worried-sounding whisper. The man stopped on the pavement, his fingers hovering over the brim of his hat, as if debating whether to remove it. Amelia's lips thinned. "We can't risk another situation like last month. I won't let this area become a political battleground." Rather, he looked back through the enormous windows of the bank, his face unreadable. A few customers by the door noticed his calm departure and whispered to each other, "Who was that guy?" One older man asked out loud, shaking his head and appearing to be courteous enough. Another customer, a woman in her mid-30s, shrugged. "Doesn't matter." People often forget that private companies are free to set their own rules. Perhaps he did something before we arrived. Amelia heard the talks, but she continued to concentrate on her computer screen, acting unconcerned. Her fingers trembled a little as she typed, but the man's composed manner troubled her more than any heated argument could have, since most people in his position would have objected, sounded louder, perhaps even requested the company number in order to lodge a grievance. But this individual, he simply left in silence, almost too controlled, and by the end of the day the incident had become the talk of the branch. Amelia overheard bits of conversations as staff members were clocking out. One teller said to another, "Did you see his face? Not even mad." "I wonder if he's coming back?" she asked, waving them away and locking her office door behind her. She dismissed their chatter and reassured herself that it was over. The man would move on to another bank. She believed that people like him didn't cause trouble in person. Instead, they stirred it up online. Amelia couldn't get the image of the man's cool, Zrenia almost purposeful departure out of her head as she drove home that night. Even the cheerful country station she liked couldn't completely take away the nagging feeling that tomorrow would bring clarity, so Amelia turned up the radio to block out her thoughts. The morning sun shone warmly on the little bank, but the atmosphere was clearly tense. With her coffee in hand and her thoughts focused on the day ahead, Amelia arrived early, as she usually did. She told herself it was just another Thursday, and that the man from yesterday wouldn't return, so why would he? By mid-morning, the regular stream of customers started to arrive, and Amelia's confidence increased despite any discomfort caused by yesterday's incident, had begun to fade and had been replaced by the familiar rhythm of the bank's operations. Then, at exactly 10:30 a.m., the door opened once more, and the same man entered, although for a brief moment the room appeared to be motionless. Amelia's heart skipped a beat because, unlike the day before, he wasn't by himself. Two men in sharp suits flanked him, commanding attention with their presence. The man himself wore the same red cap, but his posture was different. He moved purposefully, his expression calm but piercing, and whispers began among the patrons and staff. Mia leaned in Amelia's direction and muttered, "Amelia, that's Elon Musk." Amelia startled, thinking she had misheard. "What are you discussing?" she responded with a hiss. Mia gave a nod to the man who was now approaching Amelia's desk directly. "Observe him. That is Elon Musk. The SpaceX billionaire, the Tesla person." Amelia's stomach fell as she gazed at the man, wondering whether it was him. The suitcase and cap, the modest manner didn't match the image of one of the most well-known people in the world, but as he got closer, the resemblance became obvious. She felt dizzy, and the room went silent as Elon stopped at Amelia's desk. He slowly took off his cap to reveal the face that had appeared in innumerable news stories and interviews. His eyes were fixed on hers, and the silence was deafening. "Good morning," Elon said in a measured and courteous tone. "I want to say something." Amelia tried to grin professionally, even as her throat constricted. "Mr. Musk, let's not act like this didn't happen," he calmly said. "Yesterday, I came in as a regular customer and you refused to serve me. I'm not here to argue, I'm here to talk about why." Amelia felt like everyone was watching her, and she struggled to find the right words, but none came. Although Elon didn't need to raise his voice to get attention, I think everyone forms opinions. Elon went on to address the room as well as Amelia. It's human nature, but sometimes such conclusions reveal more about us than they do about the individuals we evaluate. He put the desk cap with the large white letters pointing outward. "This hat, which is made of only cloth and thread, is a target for some people and a symbol for others. Yesterday, it was sufficient to refuse me service due to your presumptions about me rather than my behavior." Elon's voice softened as he said, "I'm not here to shame anyone." Amelia's face flushed with heat, and she wanted to explain herself. But he persisted, reminding everyone that the world is more complicated than it seems, that we don't always know someone's story, that we don't know their intentions, and that if we let our assumptions guide us, we run the danger of passing up something or someone exceptional. Even the sound of the printers in the back had ceased, and the room was completely quiet. Amelia felt as if the earth had disappeared beneath her, and she was unable to look him in the eye. But Elon had one more surprise planned. With all of the eyes in the room bearing down on her, Amelia remained still as Elon's words hung heavy in the air. Eventually, she managed to whisper, "I didn't intend." Elon held up a hand softly. "I understand that he spoke in a stern but not harsh tone, and that most of the time people don't mean to pass judgment because it's reflexive. But what follows, that's what makes us unique." He turned slightly, looking across the room as both customers and staff stood in startled stillness. Some were gripping their phones, too stunned to capture the moment when his gaze fell on a young teller in the back who appeared to want to vanish behind her desk. "What's your name?" Elon asked, his voice echoing across the room but remaining composed. Sophia, the teller, stammered, obviously taken by surprise. "If someone arrived wearing something you didn't approve of, Sophia, would you make snap judgments about them based only on their attire, or would you take the time to get to know them?" Before responding, Sophia paused and gave Amelia a concerned look like everyone else. I strived to treat them the same with a little smile teasing his lips. Elon nodded. "That's a wise response." He said that it's more difficult in practice, but the tension in the room was evident. Amelia just wanted the moment to be over, but Elon wasn't done yet. He turned back to her, his voice growing even softer. Amelia's voice trembled as she finally responded, "I didn't mean to offend you," I said. "I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're someone who, like many of us, acted on an assumption. However, assumptions can be dangerous. They can hurt people and close doors we didn't even realize were open. I was keeping the bank safe." Elon cocked his head to shield it from what a client attempting to take out his own funds. Unanswerable, the query lingered in the air. "Every action we take sends a message. Yesterday, I received the message that you don't belong here, and I imagine I'm not the first person to feel that way in this bank." Amelia felt her cheeks flush with shame and wanted to defend herself by explaining that the hat had become a symbol of conflict and that she was trying to avoid chaos, but her words felt hollow in the face of Elon's composed manner and unwavering logic. "Am I a whisper?" reverberated across the crowd. Some gave a subtle nod, while others, uncomfortable, turned away. Amelia felt a knot in her stomach as the truth of the situation set in. Elon leaned slightly on the counter and fixed Amelia with his eyes. "The good news is that we can all do better, which is why I'm here not to punish but to remind everyone, including myself, that we have a choice in how we treat people." For the first time, Amelia felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps this embarrassing moment could lead to something better. This wasn't just about Elon Musk, though. It was about every customer who had ever been silently condemned, every individual who had felt excluded for reasons beyond their control. However, Elon then did something unexpected. He stood up straight and pointed to a man wearing a suit. The man approached with a stylish black folder, which Elon accepted, opened, and brought out a single sheet of paper. Elon explained that this was a pledge for a donation. "I've made the decision to give the Austin Community Relief Fund $500,000. I am aware that this bank has been a major contributor to local charitable causes, and I want to make sure that keeps up." The room was filled with gasps. Elon persisted unfazed as Amelia's eyes expanded, her shame now combined with surprise. A few staff members cheered nervously, unsure of how to react. "This donation has nothing to do with me." He stated that it serves as a reminder and is about this community. He put the paper on the counter and slid it in Amelia's direction, saying, "I trust you'll make sure it gets where it needs to go." He said that regardless of our histories, beliefs, or hats, we all have the ability to make a difference. Amelia picked up the document with shaking hands and stared at it, unsure of what to say. Elon gave a slight smile, but instead of speaking, let your actions do the talking. The story was far from done, though, as Elon turned and left the room in startled quiet. Customers and staff alike began whispering frantically and having quiet talks as soon as Elon Musk exited the bank. Amelia stayed at her desk, staring at the $500,000 commitment form in her hands, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. Her thoughts were racing between embarrassment and a strange sensation of comfort, saying, "I can't believe that was Elon Musk." "He just gave $500,000, Mia remarked, leaning against Amelia's desk, her voice just above a whisper. Amelia nodded feebly, unable to come up with a clear answer, as her thoughts continued to repeat his assertion that regardless of the roles we play, we can all make a difference, and that it wasn't only about the money. It concerned the message he gave, which revealed a serious weakness in her judgment. News of the occurrence quickly circulated. A few patrons who had visited the bank posted brief clips of the altercation on social media by the afternoon, and local news organizations swiftly featured the event with headlines like, "Elon Musk shouts out bias at local when the bank donated $500,000 to the community fund." Facebook and Twitter were inundated. The bank issued a statement recognizing the situation and praising Musk's generosity, after Amelia's phone was constantly buzzing with calls and emails from corporate wanting explanations. She spent hours crafting an official statement, carefully combining accountability with damage management, but in the meantime, the community itself started to hum with activity, and it did little to calm the tempest of public opinion. Following years of struggling to raise substantial sums of money through small donations from local businesses and individuals, the Austin Community Relief Fund, a local organization that helps impoverished families, received dozens of inquiries regarding Musk's donation. With $500,000 on the table, the possibilities seemed endless. The charity's director, Ella Martin, called a press conference to thank Musk, telling reporters in an emotional voice that the donation is transformative, allowing us to expand our programs, support more families, and leave a lasting impact on our community. "We are immensely grateful to Mr. Musk for his kindness and his conviction that kindness has great influence back at the bank." While some of her usual customers avoided looking at Amelia as she battled to deal with the aftermath, others offered discreet words of encouragement. "One old man, you made a mistake when Mr. Hargrove, a longtime customer, stopped by her desk after completing his transaction. But we all do. What matters is what you do next," he stated politely but forcefully to Amelia. Amelia nodded, tears still tearing in her eyes. "I admit that I never imagined this kind of thing could occur here." Mr. Hargrove grinned subtly. "Life has a humorous way of making us humble, so we take it as a lesson and resolve to set things right." Brenda contacted the Austin Community Relief Organization Fund and offered to assist in organizing the money's distribution. She met with her employees as well. She informed them that we must improve for ourselves and our clients by candidly acknowledging what had happened and urging everyone to examine their own prejudices. The small-town incident quickly grew into a national discussion. Individuals nationwide discussed the situation's morality and questioned how frequently they themselves would make snap judgments about other individuals based just on appearances. Though sentiments on social media were divided, with some applauding Musk's composed demeanor and others denouncing the bank's initial actions, it was evident that the incident had spurred a more in-depth discussion, one that went well beyond the Chase Bank's boundaries. After Elon Musk's arrival, the days were hectic. For the Chase Bank in the town of Austin, news crews set up shop outside the branch, hoping to record the bank manager's humiliation or speak with customers who had seen Amelia become an unwelcome center of attention. Her name was plastered on headlines and social media posts, But as the noise increased, so did the conversations, and the neighborhood became a hive of reflection, as town hall meetings and informal get-togethers saw people talking about not only the bank incident but also their own opinions and prejudices. During sermons, church officials cited the story as an example to encourage members to see past appearances. Teachers included the incident into class discussions, pushing pupils to think critically. Analyzing presumptions critically became a very personal experience for Amelia, who spent many evenings reliving the moment Elon stood in front of her and forced her to face the prejudices she had never known she held. She wasn't just ashamed, she felt changed and resolved to change. She attended diversity and inclusion workshops organized by the bank's corporate office and urged her employees to follow suit. Due to Musk's activities, the Austin Community Relief Fund gained a lot of attention and support, and additional local companies and individuals started making contributions. In a matter of weeks, the charity increased its donation base, with many noting the lesson they had learned from the tragedy. Elon Musk, for his part, declined to comment further on the incident when pressed by reporters at a Tesla event. He simply smiled and said, "I think the moment spoke for itself. Let's move on." But the consequences of his actions persisted. The incident became a case study in corporate training seminars and was featured in numerous articles and opinion pieces, each delving deeper into its implications. This allowed it to launch new programs, including one that aimed at financial literacy for low-income families, ironically in partnership with the bank. Some claimed it was evidence of the effectiveness of second chances, perceived it as a warning about the perils of prejudice, and as a result, Amelia came away from the experience more self-aware and sympathetic. Discovered the hard way that being a leader included more than simply following rules. It also meant leading by example. One afternoon, while assisting an elderly woman with an online banking program, her colleagues and customers both noticed the change. "Excuse me, Amelia." She turned when she heard a familiar voice behind her and saw Mr. Hargrove, the longtime client who had given her advice following the event. He gave her a tiny envelope. Before leaving, he winked and added, "Just thought you'd like to know." A handwritten message was inside the envelope. "We can be broken by pride, but we can be rebuilt by humility. You did well." Amelia grinned, feeling thankful that she had been given the opportunity to restore not just her reputation but also her morals, and she planned to take full use of it since often the most valuable lessons come from the unexpected. We are reminded of the value of humility, understanding, and second chances by the tale of Elon Musk and the bank manager. It's an exhortation to all of us to confront our prejudices. Show respect to others and keep in mind that our actions have an impact long after this story has touched you. Let's make compassion go viral by sharing it with someone who might benefit from the reminder, and, if you haven't already, clicking the subscribe button to follow us for more tales that encourage introspection and personal development.